WNYC supporters include Plaza Jewish Community Chapel's podcast, Exit Strategy. Executive VP Stephanie Gary and guests discuss normalizing and demystifying end-of-life issues. More at plazajewishcommunitychapel.org/exit-strategy.
At home or out and about, you're never too far from your mobile phone, which means you're never too far from WNYC. Live stream your favorite shows anytime. Just go to your browser and type in WNYC.org.
I'm Peter Sagal. We will not join those in the mainstream media trying to pretend there's any suspense in the GOP primary. We all know it's going to be the cast of Succession again. Come play the news quiz that won't play along. That's Wait, Wait from NPR. Tomorrow morning at 11 on WNYC.
On the next Brian Lehrer Show, Columbia University Business School professor Stan Van Nieuwerburg, who coined the term urban doom loop to describe how New York City's economy might gradually crash from behavior changes people have made during the pandemic. Now he says maybe not, and they might even present an opportunity for making the city better. Professor Van Nieuwerburg joins us to discuss and take your calls. That and more on The Brian Lehrer Show, weekdays at 10 a.m. on WNYC.
Marketplace Morning Report is coming up next, and then in 10 minutes at 9 o'clock, it's the BBC NewsHour on WNYC. Let's check in with London to see what they're working on. London, good morning.
Good morning, WNYC. I'm Rebecca Kesby, and on today's NewsHour, another snub for US diplomacy as Israel dismisses its suggestion of a Palestinian state. Will it damage their alliance? We've got a special report on South Africa's record violent crime, and why was Stalin included in an icon at a Georgian cathedral? That's BBC NewsHour coming up at 9 on WNYC.
30 out there now. If it's not snowing, it's going to a little bit later this morning. Winter weather advisories posted throughout the area. Snow mainly later this morning, 1 to 3 inches in the city, 3 to 5 on the Jersey Shore, less in other places. A high near 30 today with a real field, low 20s. Then tonight, cold with another chance of snow. Tomorrow, partly sunny and 24, a little bit warmer on Sunday, up to 31, still below the freezing mark with some sunshine, and we warm up next week. 30 with light snow and overcast. Winter weather advisories posted. It's 8:51.
I guess we'll just cross that budget when we come to it.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by UKG, an HR, payroll, and workforce management solution designed to help make a fairy tale workplace a reality. UKG, our purpose is people. And by Betterment, the automated investing platform that helps make it easy to be invested for the long term. Learn more at Betterment.com. Investing involves risk.
From Marketplace, I'm Sabri Benashore, in for David Brancaccio. We are 4 months into the federal government's new fiscal year, and Congress still does not have a budget. It has at least managed to delay a crisis, though, passing a stopgap funding measure to keep the government from partially shutting down this weekend. Marketplace's Nova Safo has more.
Lawmakers bought themselves a few more weeks to draft a full budget agreement that adheres to a $1.7 trillion deal reached between House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. The two sides still have to work out the details. In bipartisan votes, the House and Senate yesterday approved their third stopgap funding measure in 4 months, extending current funding levels into March with 2 new deadlines affecting different parts of the government, March 1st and March 8th. Meanwhile, House conservatives are pushing for spending cuts and more funding to enforce the U.S.-Mexico border. I'm Nova Safo for Marketplace.
The average rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage has been falling for several months now, hitting 6.75% last week, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association. And this week, Fannie Mae is predicting rates could drop below 6% this year. Now, lower mortgage rates might ordinarily mean more demand, which would mean higher home prices. But this time, maybe not. Marketplace's Justin Ho reports.
A big factor that could keep home prices from rising too much is if housing supply increases.
Generally, I expect inventory to rise in 2024 from anemic levels.
That's Odetta Kushi at First American. She says one way that could happen is if mortgage rates drop low enough to encourage existing homeowners with really cheap mortgages to sell.
I don't expect a drastic increase in existing home inventory, but certainly a trickle of existing home inventory as rates continue to come down.
A bigger factor that's already been increasing inventory is new construction, says Charlie Doherty, senior economist at Wells Fargo.
Single-family construction has been improving as demand has returned and as mortgage rates have moved lower.
But Doherty says demand is coming off really low levels. And if the economy continues to slow down,
then housing demand in general should continue to be fairly sluggish.
And that would keep a lid on home prices too. I'm Justin Howe for Marketplace.
Walmart said it's going to raise the average salary and bonus for store managers in the U.S. starting next month. Average hourly wage will be $18 an hour. Walmart stock is down 0.2% in pre-market trading. Let's see how the rest of the market's doing. Let's do the numbers. Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures are all up in the 4 to 0.6% range, with Dow futures up 162 points. The yield on the 10-year Treasury is 4.162%. And social media platform Reddit is getting ready to launch an IPO in March. According to Reuters, it plans to sell 10% of its shares. Back in 2021, Reddit was valued at $10 billion. TBD on what its IPO valuation will be.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by C3 Generative AI. Verified traceable answers, secure, hallucination-free, LLM-agnostic, IP liability-free. Learn more at c3.ai. And by Progressive Insurance. Customers can simplify their insurance needs and protect what's important by bundling home and auto. Learn more about bundling at progressive.com. And by Bitwarden. The Bitwarden Password Manager enables quick and easy logins through biometric unlock and password autofill. More at bitwarden.com.
It is horrifically cold in much of the country right now. And in those places, some electric vehicle owners may be going through their first cold winter with their new cars and discovering that they aren't charging as quickly or holding charge as long. In Chicago this week, there have been long lines of Tesla drivers waiting for a charger and some cars' batteries running out before it was their turn. Marketplace's Samantha Fields has more.
You know how when you put honey in the fridge and it gets cold, it moves a lot more slowly? Dan Steingart at Columbia says that's basically what happens to batteries when they get cold too, including the ones in electric cars.
The ions that have to move from one side of the battery to the other side of the battery to give us the power we need also slow down significantly.
Most of the time, he says, this doesn't change how EVs run.
Because the car works very hard to keep the battery at a consistent temperature. So if you keep the car plugged in overnight, in particular, if you keep the car plugged in a garage, you shouldn't really notice this.
But if you can't keep it in a garage or plugged in at night and it gets really cold out, you're going to notice. For one thing, Graham Evans at S&P Global Mobility says the car is going to take longer to charge.
There's definitely this kind of sweet spot for a battery to operate, somewhere in the region of 77 degrees Fahrenheit.
So if the car has been sitting outside in the cold overnight,
when people are trying to charge, first thing, they plug in, they try and receive a very high power level of charge. The vehicle will struggle to receive the charge.
The other thing that happens to EVs when it's really cold out is that they lose range, says Gil Tal at UC Davis.
And it's losing range both because the battery is too cold to give the optimal performance and also because we use energy to heat the car, to heat the cabin, to heat ourselves.
So if you normally get 400 miles out of a full battery charge, you might only get 200 or 300 miles, depending on the car and how cold it is.
And there is no way around it. We just need to plan for it.
For now, Tal says that's the solution. If you know it's going to be very cold, find a way to plug the car in or be prepared for charging to take longer. Dan Steingart at Columbia says engineers, including in his lab, are working on this.
Batteries beforehand were designed to work near and around room temperature because our laptops and our phones were either inside or in our pockets near us, and we like to be at room temperature.
So batteries were optimized for that fairly narrow range. But now that we're increasingly using these kinds of batteries in things like cars that need to operate when it's really hot and when it's really cold,
it's the new frontier of battery engineering to make it so that batteries are happier at multiple temperatures.
And Steingart expects there will be a lot of progress on this front in the next 10 years. I'm Samantha Fields for Marketplace.
Our executive producer is Kelly Silvera. Our digital producer is Dylan Mietinen. Our engineers are Jessen Dueller and Becca Weinman. And in New York, I'm Sabri Benishore with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.